Jake Morrison stood in the center of the Galactic Council chamber and watched the voting display light up. One by one, the representatives from 247 different species cast their votes. The numbers climbed steadily. Exile, Exile, Exile. His assistant, Lisa Chen, stood beside him with a tablet in her hands. She watched the count with a blank expression, but Jake could see her fingers tightening around the device. The chamber was massive, built to accommodate species of all shapes and sizes. Some representatives floated in zero-gravity fields. Others sat in tanks of liquid. A few were just glowing clouds of gas contained in force fields. The final vote came in. 231 species voted for Earth's exile. Only 16 voted against it. The Galactic Council had spoken. Humanity was no longer welcome in the galactic community. The chamber fell silent. Every eye, sensor, and detection organ turned toward Jake. The council leader, a being made of living crystal that refracted light into rainbow patterns, leaned forward. Its voice came through translation devices placed throughout the room. Ambassador Morrison, the council has reached its decision. Humanity is hereby exiled from the galactic community. All human vessels, stations, and citizens must leave council space within 30 days. Do you have anything to say? Jake looked around the chamber one more time. He saw fear in some faces, satisfaction in others. A few species looked uncomfortable, like they had just done something they would regret. He took a deep breath and smiled. It was not a bitter smile or a forced one. It was genuine and warm. I thank the council for their time and consideration, Jake said clearly. Humanity accepts this decision. We will comply fully and immediately. There will be no appeals, no arguments, and no delays. We wish you all well. The crystal being seemed to freeze. Its internal light patterns flickered with what might have been confusion. Other council members shifted in their seats. This was not the reaction they expected. They had prepared security forces in case humans became violent. They had drafted speeches to respond to angry protests. But this calm acceptance? No one knew what to do with it. A representative from the Korvax Empire, a species that looked like walking trees, stood up. You accept? Just like that? Jake nodded. Of course. This is your council and your decision. We respect it. Lisa, please gather our materials. We should leave these fine beings to their business. Lisa moved quickly, collecting their data tablets and documents. Jake straightened his suit jacket and gave a small bow to the assembly. Then he turned and walked toward the exit. Lisa followed close behind. They walked down the long corridor that led away from the council chamber. The walls were made of some translucent material that showed the stars beyond. Jake kept his pace steady and his face calm. Only when they entered the private transport pod did Lisa finally speak. Sir, how are you so calm? They just kicked humanity out of the galaxy. Jake leaned back in his seat as the pod began moving toward the docking area where their ship waited. His smile grew wider. Lisa, do you remember what Director Graham told us before we left Earth? She said to trust the process. She said more than that. She said that no matter what happened in that chamber, everything was going according to plan. Jake pulled out his personal communicator and typed in a encrypted code. Send the message. Use Protocol 7. Lisa's eyes widened. Protocol 7? That's the signal for Phase 2. Yes. Jake looked out at the passing stars. They think they're punishing us. They have no idea what they've just done. Back on Earth, President Kate Sullivan sat in the Situation Room deep below the White House. Around her, military leaders, scientists, and intelligence officers watched multiple screens showing feeds from across the planet and beyond. When the secure message from Jake arrived, Kate read it once and then looked up at the assembled group. Ladies and gentlemen, the Council has voted exactly as we predicted. We are officially exiled. She paused, letting the weight of the words settle. Then she smiled. Begin Operation Curtain Drop. All personnel, follow your briefed protocols. It's time to show them what humanity really is. Admiral Ben Carter, a weathered man with gray hair and sharp eyes, nodded. All units are standing by, Madam President. We can begin the recall within the hour. Make it happen, Admiral. Across human space, messages began flowing out through encrypted channels. Every human ship, station, and outpost beyond the solar system received the same order. Come home. Not in a week or a month. Now, Captain Ryan Webb was aboard a cargo vessel near the Deneb sector when the message came through. He read it twice to make sure he understood correctly. Then he turned to his crew. You heard the order. Plot a course for Earth. Maximum speed. Dump any cargo that slows us down. His first officer, a young woman named Maria Santos, looked confused. Sir, we have contracts. We can't just abandon. The contracts don't matter anymore, Ryan said firmly. Humanity is going home. All of us. Similar scenes played out across the galaxy. Human miners working on asteroid colonies packed their equipment. Diplomats, working in alien cities, quietly closed their offices. Scientists researching in joint alien-human facilities downloaded their data and said quick goodbyes. Within 24 hours, the Great Exodus began. The Galactic Council watched with growing confusion. They had expected delays, negotiations, maybe even scattered humans refusing to leave. Instead, humanity was pulling back faster than seemed possible. It was organized, efficient, and eerily calm. On a monitoring station near the edge of Council space, an alien observer named Krell watched human ships streaming past his sensors. Hundreds of them, all heading toward the small yellow star, where Earth orbited. He had voted for the Exile, believing humans were too dangerous to keep around. But now, watching them leave so quickly and quietly, he felt something he did not expect: fear. Back on Earth, Jake Morrison finally arrived home after a 3-day journey. He went straight to a facility hidden in the mountains of Colorado. Director Nicole Graham met him at the entrance. She was a tall woman with dark hair tied back in a practical bun. She shook his hand firmly. Good work, Ambassador. Or, should I say, former Ambassador. End created. On Fivermancer. End quote. Ambassador, Jake is fine now, he said with a tired smile. Did everyone make it back? 97% are already home. The rest will arrive within a week. And, Jake? Nicole's smile matched his own. The barrier generators are online. Once the last ship crosses the threshold, we disappear. Jake looked at the massive screens showing Earth from orbit. Huge structures were being moved into position around the planet. Machines the size of cities that had been built in secret for years. They wanted us isolated. Let's give them isolation like they've never imagined. 5 years, Nicole said quietly. That's how long until they realize what a mistake they made. 5 years, Jake agreed. And when we come back, everything will be different. The last human ship crossed into the solar system 3 days later. The moment it did, something extraordinary happened. Earth's electromagnetic signature simply vanished from every sensor in the galaxy. It was as if someone had turned off a light switch. The Sol system went dark, silent, and invisible. The Galactic Council tried to send monitoring probes. They bounced back. Their systems scrambled. They tried long-range sensors. Nothing but static. Humanity had not just gone home. They had pulled the door shut and locked it from the inside. In the council chamber, the crystal being that led the assembly looked at the empty space where Earth's signal used to be. What have they done? It wondered aloud. No one had an answer. On Earth, Kate Sullivan addressed the world one final time before the curtain dropped completely. Billions of humans watched as their president spoke calmly and confidently. My fellow humans, today we begin our greatest adventure. We are alone now, truly alone, for the first time since we reached the stars. The galaxy has told us we are not welcome, So be it. We will build our own future. We will reach heights they cannot imagine. And when they finally realize what they have lost, we will be ready. Thank you, and good luck to us all. The broadcast ended. Earth went dark, and humanity got to work. The first month after the exile was chaos for the Galactic Council. Trade routes that humans had protected suddenly became dangerous. Pirates appeared in systems that had been safe for decades. The Council scrambled to fill the security gaps, but their response was slow and expensive. Ambassador Krell sat in his office on the Council station and reviewed reports from across the galaxy. His species, the Korvax, had voted for Earth's exile. He had personally argued that humans were too aggressive, too unpredictable. Now he was reading about Korvax cargo ships being raided because the human patrol vessels were gone. His aide, a younger Korvax named Tren, brought him another report. "Sir, the merchant guilds are complaining again. They say security costs have tripled since the humans left." Krell waved a branch-like arm dismissively. "They will adapt. It was necessary to remove the humans. They were a threat to galactic peace." But even as he said it, Krell felt doubt creeping in. The humans had not acted like a threat. They had not argued or fought. They had just left. That bothered him more than any protest would have. In another part of the galaxy, a science team was trying to understand what happened to Earth. Dr. Vex, a floating jellyfish-like creature, studied the sensor readings from the Sol system, or rather, the lack of readings. There was nothing. No radio waves, no heat signatures, no electromagnetic activity at all. It was as if Earth and all its colonies had simply vanished. "This should not be possible," Vex said to her team. "A civilization cannot just disappear. They have to produce some kind of signal." Her assistant, a small furry creature named Pip, checked the equipment again. "The sensors are working fine, Doctor. There is just nothing to detect. Whatever the humans did, it is blocking everything." Vex had spent years studying human technology. She had always been impressed by their creativity and innovation. But this was beyond anything she thought they were capable of. "Try sending a probe into the system. Maybe we can get closer readings." They sent 3 probes. All 3 approached the boundary of the Sol system, and then their signals cut off. They did not explode. They did not malfunction. They just stopped transmitting. When the team tried to retrieve them remotely, the probes turned around and flew back out of the system on their own, completely disabled. On Earth, deep inside a command center in Colorado, Director Nicole Graham watched the alien probes bounce off the barrier system. She smiled and turned to her team. "They are testing us. Good. Let them wonder." 9. The barrier was not a physical wall. It was something much more sophisticated. It bent space and energy around the entire solar system, making it impossible for outside signals to penetrate. More than that, it actively protected the system from intrusion. Any hostile probe or ship would find its systems shut down and gently pushed away. "How long until the next phase?" Nicole asked. A scientist named Dr. Amy Foster checked her screens. "The terraform systems are already running on schedule. The first new world should be ready for colonization in 18 months. All 20 target systems are responding well." Nicole nodded. 20 star systems, carefully chosen over decades of secret exploration, all within reach of Earth's new technology. The galaxy thought humans were confined to one solar system. They had no idea humanity was about to expand into 20. But the expansion was just part of the plan. The real work was happening in shipyards, hidden behind the moon, and in the asteroid belt. Admiral Ben Carter walked through one such shipyard, looking at the new vessels under construction. They did not look like the old human ships. These were sleek, dark, and built with technology that the Galactic Council had forbidden humans to research. Captain Ryan Webb stood beside him, looking up at a destroyer being assembled by floating construction drones. "She is beautiful, Admiral. When can we test her?" "Next week." The engineers say the new drive system is ready. Ben smiled. The council was so worried about us developing advanced weapons. They never realized we were more interested in advanced movement. These ships will make their fastest vessels look like they are standing still. Ryan had been a cargo captain, but he had volunteered for the new military program. Like thousands of other humans, he wanted to be part of what came next. Do you think they will try to come back? Try to check on us? Probably. But by the time they work up the courage, we will be long past where they think we are. 6 months passed. The Galactic Council noticed more problems. Technologies that humans had helped develop were breaking down. Humans had been involved in maintaining FTL gate networks, medical systems, and communication relays across Council space. Without them, things started failing. The Council tried to fix the problems themselves, but they quickly realized how dependent they had become on human engineers. Humans had a gift for understanding complex systems and finding creative solutions. Now that gift was gone. Council leader Jarn, the crystal being, called a special session. We must address the situation. Our infrastructure is failing. Perhaps we were too hasty in exiling the humans. Several council members shifted uncomfortably. Admitting they made a mistake was not easy, but a few voices spoke up, including some who had voted against the exile originally. A small flying creature named Ambassador Lyra rose to speak. I warned this council that humans provided more benefit than risk. They protected our trade routes. They shared their technology freely. They solved problems others could not. And how did we repay them? With exile. They were dangerous, Krell argued. Their military power was growing too fast. Their influence was spreading too far. And now? Lyra challenged. Now we have neither their protection nor their friendship. We have accomplished nothing except making our own lives harder. The debate went on for hours but reached no conclusion. The council was divided. Some wanted to try contacting humanity and apologizing. In the end, they decided to wait and observe. On Earth, that wait was exactly what humanity needed. Every day brought new advances. With no council restrictions on research, human scientists explored fields that had been forbidden: artificial intelligence, genetic engineering, quantum manipulation, dimensional physics. All the technologies the council feared were now being developed openly. Jake Morrison, no longer an ambassador, now worked as a liaison between the civilian government and the military. He visited a research facility in Australia where Dr. Amy Foster was showing off a new breakthrough. We call it a skip drive, Amy explained, pointing at a holographic display. It does not move the ship through space. It moves space around the ship. The result is travel that is 10 times faster than anything the council has. Jake whistled softly. 10 times? That is incredible. That is just the beginning. We think we can push it to 20 or 30 times with more refinement. And Jake, there is more. Amy pulled up another display. We found something in deep space. Old structures, ancient technology, predates the council by millions of years. We think whoever built them understood physics at a level the current galaxy cannot match. Can we use it? We are already integrating some of the principles. The skip drive is based partly on what we learned from those structures. Amy's excitement was clear. The council thought they were advanced. They have no idea what real advancement looks like. Meanwhile, on a remote listening post at the edge of former human territory, a young alien technician named Kryn picked up something strange. It was just a blip, a momentary signal that appeared and disappeared. He almost ignored it. But something made him run a deeper analysis. The signal had come from a region of space that was supposedly empty. No habitable worlds, no resources worth mining, nothing of interest. Yet the signal had been there, just for a second, and when Kryn analyzed its structure, he found something shocking. It had human characteristics. He reported it to his supervisor, who dismissed it as sensor noise. But Kryn kept watching. Over the next few weeks, he detected 3 more brief signals from different empty regions of space. Always quick. Always in places where nothing should be. What Kryn did not know was that he was detecting humanity's expansion. The signals were not mistakes. They were test transmissions from the new colonies being built in secret across 20 star systems. Humanity was not hiding in the Sol system. They were spreading out, growing stronger, and preparing for something the galaxy could not imagine. Back on Earth, President Kate Sullivan met with her top advisors. It had been 8 months since the Exile. In that time, humanity had made 5 years' worth of progress. The new ships were almost ready. The colonies were being populated. The research programs were yielding breakthrough after breakthrough. How much longer? Kate asked Nicole Graham. 4 years, maybe less. That is when we will be ready to return. And what will we be returning as? Nicole smiled. Not as the species they exiled. As something far greater. They wanted us gone because they feared our potential. When we come back, their fears will be proven right. But by then, it will not matter. We will not need their permission for anything. Kate nodded slowly. She looked at the screen showing Earth, now surrounded by construction platforms and new defensive satellites. The planet was transforming into something new, something powerful. Then, let's make sure we are ready. Because when we do come back, I want to make an impression they will never forget. In the darkness of space, hidden from all sensors, humanity worked and built and grew. The galaxy had voted to exile them, thinking it would solve a problem. Instead, they had freed humanity to become something they had always been capable of becoming. The Council's mistake was not in fearing human potential. Their mistake was thinking they could stop it. 5 years had passed since the exile. Ambassador Krell looked older now. More tired. His bark-like skin had taken on a gray tinge, and his movements were slower. He sat in his office reviewing reports that all said the same thing. The Galactic Council was in trouble. Trade routes were barely functional. Pirate attacks had increased by 400%. Several minor wars had broken out between species who used to be kept in check by Council peacekeepers. But the peacekeepers were stretched too thin now, trying to cover the gaps left by human military forces. Krell's homeworld had been attacked 3 times in the past year. His own family lived there. Each time, the Council's response had been too slow, too weak. If humans had still been around, their fast response teams would have stopped the attacks before they really began. But humans were gone, and Krell's people were suffering. His aide Tren entered with another report. Sir, the Council wants proposals for dealing with the security crisis. What do they expect me to say? Krell snapped, his branches rustling with frustration. We need more ships, more personnel, more coordination. All things the humans provided, but I cannot say that because I voted to exile them. Perhaps, Tren said carefully, we could try to contact them, ask for their help. Krell was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. Perhaps, but would they even answer? And if they do, what have they become in 5 years? That question worried many council members. Earth had gone completely silent. No signals, no communications, nothing. A few brave expeditions had tried to approach the Sol system, but all had been turned back by the strange barrier. The humans were in there somewhere, but what they were doing was a complete mystery. Far from the Council's troubles, a young pilot named Chris Palmer was flying a small exploration ship through an uncharted sector. He was a freelancer, taking odd jobs, mapping systems that corporations might want to exploit later. It was boring work, but it paid well. His sensors picked up something unusual. Energy readings from a star system that was supposed to be empty. Chris changed course to investigate. What he found made him forget to breathe for a moment. The system had 3 habitable worlds. All 3 showed signs of recent terraforming. Atmosphere processors, water treatment facilities, agricultural stations. Everything needed to support human life. But there were no people. The colonies were empty, just waiting to be populated. Chris ran detailed scans. The technology was far beyond anything the Council possessed. The terraforming was perfect, efficient, and fast. This was not something that could be done in 5 years, unless someone had made incredible advances in technology, unless someone had been preparing for this in secret. Humans, Chris whispered. This is human work. He checked his star charts. This system was over 200 light-years from Earth. There was no way humans could have built this, not with their old technology. But the evidence was right in front of him. He found 18 more similar systems over the next week, all prepared the same way, all empty and waiting. Chris knew he should report this to the Council. But something made him hesitate. The humans had clearly been busy during their exile. Maybe they wanted to keep it secret. Maybe revealing this would cause problems. In the end, he encrypted his findings and sent them only to a few contacts he trusted. On Earth, deep in the command center, Director Nicole Graham watched a display showing their 20 colony systems. 19 were ready for population. The 20th would be complete next month. It was all going according to plan. How many colonists are ready for the first wave? She asked. Her assistant, a young man named Paul Martinez, checked his tablet. 50 million have volunteered. We can start sending them through next week. Good. Start with System 7. It has the most developed infrastructure. Nicole turned to another display showing ship construction. And the fleet? Admiral Carter reports that the first battle group is ready for trials. Captain Webb is leading the test flights. Captain Ryan Webb sat in the command chair of the new destroyer Valiant. Around him, his crew worked at stations that looked nothing like the old human ships. The controls were streamlined, intuitive, powered by advanced AI that helped rather than replaced human decision-making. All stations report ready, Captain. His first officer, Lieutenant Maria Santos, reported. Take us out, Maria. Let's see what this beauty can do. The Valiant moved away from the construction dock. Then, Ryan activated the skip drive. Space seemed to fold around the ship. One moment they were near Earth. The next, they were at the edge of the solar system. The journey that used to take hours happened in seconds. Ryan laughed with pure joy. Now that is speed. Take us to System 7. Full skip. The ship jumped again. They crossed 200 light-years in less than a minute. The crew was silent, awed by what their new technology could do. When they arrived at System 7, Ryan looked at the prepared colony world below and felt pride swell in his chest. This is what we built while they thought we were hiding, he said quietly. This is what humanity can do when we are free to reach our potential. Back on the Council station, Ambassador Krell made a difficult decision. He approached Council Leader Jarn privately. We need to contact Earth. We need to ask for help. Jarn's crystalline body pulsed with uncertain light patterns. The Council is divided on this. Many still believe we made the right choice exiling them. Then those members are fools, Krell said bluntly. My world is suffering. Dozens of worlds are suffering. The humans understood something we did not. They understood that someone needs to be strong enough to protect the weak. We thought we could do it ourselves. We were wrong. If we contact them, we show weakness. We admit our mistake. Yes, Krell agreed. And that is exactly what we need to do. Pride has kept us from doing what is necessary. But I will not let pride cause more of my people to die. Other council members were having similar conversations. The small flying creature, Ambassador Lyra, gathered those who had voted against the exile. They formed a coalition, pushing for contact with Earth. The debate grew heated. Some species threatened to leave the Council entirely if humans were invited back. Others threatened to leave if they were not. The crisis came to a head when the reports arrived about something called the Devourer Swarm. A massive fleet of machine ships had entered Council space from beyond the galactic rim. They did not communicate. They did not negotiate. They just consumed everything in their path. The first world they hit was a peaceful colony of farmers. The swarm arrived and in 3 days had stripped the planet of all resources, all life, everything. They left behind a dead rock and moved to the next target. The Council sent its military forces. The battle was a disaster. Council ships were slower, their weapons less effective, their tactics outdated. They had not fought a real war in generations. The swarm tore through them like paper. In 2 weeks, 5 worlds were destroyed. Billions of lives lost. The Council was in full panic mode. They tried everything they could think of, but nothing worked. The swarm adapted to every tactic, learned from every engagement, and kept coming. Council leader Jarn finally called an emergency session. The chamber was filled with fear. Some representatives were missing, having fled back to their homeworlds. Those who remained looked desperate. "We have no choice," Jarn announced. "We must contact Earth. We must ask humanity for help." The vote was not even close this time. 215 species voted yes. Only 12 voted no. The rest abstained. Krell volunteered to lead the delegation. Despite his earlier support for the Exile, he felt he owed humanity an apology. And perhaps his guilt would make his plea more honest. 3 ships left the Council station heading for the Sol system. Krell was aboard the lead vessel, with a small crew and a few other ambassadors who had voted against the Exile. As they approached the barrier around Earth, Krell sent out a message on all frequencies. "This is Ambassador Krell of the Galactic Council. We come in peace. We seek to speak with humanity on a matter of urgent importance. Please, respond." For a long moment, there was nothing. Then the barrier opened, just a small gap, and a voice came through. It was calm, professional, and entirely in control. "This is Earth Defense Command. State your business, Ambassador." Krell felt a chill. The voice was not hostile, but it was not friendly either. It was the voice of someone who held all the power and knew it. "We need help. There is a threat to the entire galaxy. We are here to request humanity's assistance." Another pause. Then, "You may enter. Follow the navigation beacon. Any deviation from the prescribed course will result in your immediate removal from the system. Do you understand?" 1. "We understand." The gap in the barrier widened. Krell's ship moved forward, and what he saw on the other side made his branches go rigid with shock. Earth was surrounded by structures that dwarfed anything the Council had ever built. Orbital rings circled the planet, connected by massive elevators. Thousands of ships moved in organized patterns. Defensive platforms bristled with weapons that looked far too advanced. But it was not just the scale. It was the confidence. Everything about what he saw spoke of a civilization that had not been hiding in fear. This was a civilization that had been building, growing, and becoming stronger than anyone imagined possible. "What have you become?" Krell whispered. A human ship approached, sleek and dark. It moved with grace that seemed to defy physics. Lieutenant Hannah Brooks's voice came over the comm. As Krell's ship was escorted toward Earth, he realized the terrible truth. The Council had not exiled humanity to protect the galaxy. They had freed humanity to become what they were always meant to be. And now the galaxy needed them, needed their strength, needed their protection. He hoped humanity would be willing to help. But more than that, he hoped they would be willing to forgive. Ambassador Krell walked through the halls of what humans called Unity Station, the massive orbital facility above Earth. He had visited Earth before, back when humans were still part of the Council. But this was different. Everything was different. The walls were made of materials he did not recognize. The lighting adjusted automatically as he passed. Humans walked by with confidence in their steps, wearing uniforms that looked both practical and impressive. No one seemed nervous or uncertain. They moved like people who knew exactly what they were doing and where they belonged. A young woman with dark hair approached. She wore a simple gray suit with a small Earth emblem on the collar. Ambassador Krell, I am Laura Patterson. I will be your liaison during your visit. President Sullivan is ready to see you now. Krell recognized the name. Laura had been a junior diplomat 5 years ago, one of the few who voted against the Exile. Miss Patterson, thank you for receiving us. I remember you from the council. Laura smiled slightly. I remember you too, Ambassador. You gave a very passionate speech about why humans were too dangerous to remain in the galactic community. The words were not said with anger, but they still stung. Krell's branches drooped slightly. I was wrong. I hope you know that I have come to regret my words. Many people have regrets, Ambassador. The question is what we do about them. Laura gestured down the corridor. This way, please. They entered a conference room with large windows showing Earth below. The planet looked different too. The orbital rings were visible even from here. Massive structures connecting dozens of stations. Krell could see ships of all sizes moving in perfect coordination. President Kate Sullivan stood looking out the window. She turned as they entered, and Krell was struck by how much she had aged. 5 years had added lines to her face and gray to her hair. But her eyes were sharp and clear. This was a woman who had led her people through something extraordinary. Ambassador Krell, Kate said, walking forward. It has been a long time, Madam President. Krell bowed in the human fashion. Thank you for seeing me. I know we do not deserve your time or your help. Kate gestured to the chairs around a long table. Sit, please. Let's talk honestly. You said the galaxy is facing a threat. Tell me about this devourer swarm. Krell sat and pulled out a data device. He projected holographic images showing the swarm's attacks. Kate watched in silence as world after world was stripped bare. When the presentation ended, she leaned back in her chair. How many worlds have been lost? 7, as of this morning. The swarm is moving deeper into Council space. We estimate they will reach the core systems within 3 months. Maybe less. And your military forces? Ineffective. We have lost 60% of our combat fleet. The swarm adapts to our tactics faster than we can develop new ones. Their ships are more advanced, better coordinated, and they do not fear death because they are machines. Kate was quiet for a moment. Then she asked the question Krell had been dreading. Why should we help you? You voted to exile us. You called us dangerous. You forced us to leave. Why should humanity risk itself for a galaxy that rejected us? Krell had prepared an answer, a diplomatic response about shared history and mutual benefit. But looking at Kate's serious face, he knew she wanted the truth. He gave it to her. We should not expect your help. We do not deserve it. I voted to exile humanity because I was afraid of what you might become. I was afraid of your strength, your innovation, your refusal to accept limits, and I was right to fear those things, because look at what you have built. He gestured at the window, at the transformed Earth beyond. In 5 years, you have become more advanced than species who have been in space for thousands of years. You proved that humans are exceptional. But, Kate prompted, but being exceptional does not make you cruel. Being powerful does not make you vindictive. The humans I knew before the exile were good people. They protected the weak. They helped those in need. They stood against injustice even when it cost them. Krell's voice became quieter. I am gambling that exile has not changed that core nature. I am gambling that humanity still cares about innocent lives, even lives that belong to species who wronged you. Kate studied him for a long moment. Then she looked at Laura, who had been standing silently by the door. What do you think? Laura stepped forward. I think the ambassador is right that we have no obligation to help. But I also think he is right about who we are. If we let billions die when we could save them, just because their leaders made a mistake, then we become exactly what they feared. We become cruel. We become the villains of our own story. Director Graham, Kate called out, and Nicole Graham entered from a side door. She must have been listening the whole time. Nicole walked to the table and placed her own data device down. We have been monitoring the swarm since they entered the galaxy. We knew about them before the Council did. Actually, our long-range sensors are much better than theirs. Krell felt embarrassed. Humanity had known and said nothing, but he could not blame them. Why would they warn a galaxy that had exiled them? Nicole continued. We have also been studying the swarm's behavior and technology. We believe we know how to stop them. 17 with Nell. We have also been studying the swarms. You do? The swarm is not mindless. They have a central intelligence coordinating their actions. It is distributed across their entire fleet, but there are key nodes that process most of the decision-making. If we can identify and destroy those nodes, the rest of the swarm will become disorganized. They will stop being an unstoppable force and become just another enemy that can be defeated. Kate turned back to Krell. So we can help. The question is, should we? Krell felt hope and fear mixing together. Madam President, I cannot give you a reason that would be fair or logical. I can only tell you that innocent people are dying. Children, families, entire civilizations that had nothing to do with your exile. If you help us, it will not be because we deserve it. It will be because you are better than we ever gave you credit for. Kate was silent for a long time. The room was so quiet that Krell could hear the hum of the station around them. Finally, Kate stood up and walked back to the window. She looked down at Earth, the planet she had led through 5 years of isolation and transformation. Laura, what was the vote? How many species voted to exile us? 231, Madam President. And how many of those species have colonies or worlds in the path of the swarm? Laura checked her tablet. Most of them. At least 160 species have populations at risk. Kate nodded slowly. Then she turned back to Krell. I need to make something very clear, Ambassador. If humanity helps the Council, it will not be as a member seeking readmission. It will not be as a subordinate asking for approval. We will help as an independent power, an ally, not a servant. I understand, Krell said quickly. The Council will accept whatever terms you set. Will they? Kate's voice had an edge now. Because from what I understand, many Council members still think they made the right choice, exiling us. Some of them fear us even more now that they see what we have become. Are you sure they want our help? Or do they just want to use us to solve their problem and then exile us again? The question hung in the air. Krell realized she was absolutely right to ask it. There were Council members who still distrusted humanity, who would want them gone as soon as the crisis was over. How could he promise that would not happen? Before he could answer, Laura spoke up. Madam President, perhaps we should make the terms explicit. Humanity helps stop the swarm. In return, we want recognition as a sovereign power with our own territory. No Council oversight. No regulations on our research. No limits on our expansion. We remain independent, but friendly. Kate smiled slightly. You have been thinking about this. Laura. Yes, ma'am. I have had 5 years to think about what I would say if this moment came. Kate looked back at Krell. Those are our terms. We help save the galaxy. The Council recognizes our independence and our right to expand. We will share some technology and knowledge. We will defend innocent people who are threatened. But we will never again submit to Council authority. Can you agree to that? Krell did not hesitate. Yes, I will take your terms to the Council. I believe they will accept. Good. Kate pressed a button on the table. Admiral Carter. Please, come in. Admiral Ben Carter entered, looking every bit the military commander. His uniform was crisp. His bearing, confident. Madam President? Madam? The Council has asked for our help against the swarm. I am inclined to provide it. How quickly can we deploy? First battle group is ready now. 5 more battle groups can be ready within 48 hours. We can have the entire fleet mobilized in a week if needed. Krell's eyes widened. Battle groups? Entire fleets? Humanity had been busy indeed. How many ships do you have? Admiral. Ben smiled. Enough, Ambassador. More than enough. Kate turned back to Krell. You will return to the Council with our terms. While you do that, we will begin deploying our forces. Admiral Carter will coordinate with your military commanders. But make this clear to the Council, Ambassador. Humanity is done asking for permission. We are done being judged by species who cannot match our achievements. We help because it is right, not because we are told to. Krell stood and bowed deeply. Thank you, Madam President. You have given the galaxy hope. I will not forget this. As Krell left the room, escorted by Laura, Kate turned to Nicole and Ben. How do you think it will go? Nicole shrugged. Some of them will be grateful. Some will be resentful. Most will be terrified of what we have become. But none of that matters. We are doing this because it is who we are. 7. Ben nodded agreement. And once they see our fleet in action, once they see what we are capable of, the galaxy will never look at humanity the same way again. End quote. Once they see our creaser. Kate looked out at Earth one more time. 5 years ago, the galaxy had exiled them out of fear. Now humanity was returning, not as exiles seeking forgiveness, but as a power that the galaxy could not ignore. It was exactly what she had hoped for. Send the order, Admiral. Deploy the fleet. Let's show them what humanity can do. The Viridian cluster was dying. 3 planets in the system were already gone, stripped clean by the Devourer swarm. The remaining 2 planets held 15 billion people, desperately trying to evacuate. But there were not enough ships, not enough time. The swarm would arrive in hours. Admiral Ben Carter stood on the bridge of the human flagship Independence, watching his displays as his fleet moved into position. 100 warships, all using the new skip drive technology. They had crossed half the galaxy in less than a day. The Council's fastest ships would have needed 2 weeks to make the same journey. All ships report ready, Admiral, reported Commander Luke Henderson from his position at Tactical. The swarm fleet is detecting us. They are adjusting their approach. Ben nodded. This would be the first time the galaxy saw humanity's new military capability. He wanted to make it count. Launch all fighters. Destroyers move to forward positions. Cruisers form the second line. Battleships hold back for heavy support. The fleet moved like a dance, each ship knowing exactly where to be. The Council military observers watching from a safe distance were stunned by the coordination. Human ships did not just fight together, they thought together. Advanced AI linked every vessel, creating a network of tactical awareness that the swarm could not match. The swarm ships emerged from faster-than-light travel. There were hundreds of them. All identical black spheres, covered in weapons and sensors. They had torn through Council fleets with ease. Now, they faced humanity. Captain Ryan Webb sat in the command chair of the destroyer Valiant, watching the swarm approach. All weapons armed. Shields at maximum. Remember your training. People. These things adapt fast, so we hit them hard and keep changing our tactics. The swarm opened fire first. Energy beams and missiles filled space. But the human ships moved in ways that seemed impossible. Their skip drives, allowing micro-jumps that made them almost impossible to target. A ship would be in one place, then suddenly 50 kilometers away, then back again. The swarm's targeting systems could not keep up. Human weapons fired back. These were not the simple plasma cannons the Council used. These were weapons based on principles the Council had forbidden humans to research. Gravitational disruptors that tore ships apart at the molecular level. Quantum torpedoes that phased through shields before exploding. Energy weapons that adapted in real time to overcome any defense. The swarm adapted, just as the reports said they would. But humanity adapted faster. Every time the swarm changed its tactics, human AI analyzed the change and developed a counter in seconds. What had been an unstoppable force met an immovable object, and the unstoppable force was losing. On the planet below, civilians watched the battle through telescopes and long-range sensors. They saw human ships dancing through the swarm, like sharks through a school of fish. They saw swarm vessels exploding one after another. They saw hope for the first time in weeks. Ambassador Krell watched from the Council observation ship, unable to speak. In 30 minutes, the human fleet had destroyed more swarm ships than the Council had managed in 3 months. And the humans were barely trying. They were learning, testing, experimenting with the swarm's capabilities. Incredible, whispered Ambassador Lyra beside him. They are not just fighting. They are studying their enemy in the middle of battle. Weed 70 to Scrime. In 70 to Scrime, Ben Carter watched the tactical display and allowed himself a small smile. Commander Henderson, I think we have enough data. Time to end this. Deploy the resonance network. 50 human ships suddenly changed their energy output, creating a synchronized frequency that covered the entire battlefield. The swarm ships began to shake. Their coordination broke down. They started firing at random, even hitting each other. Within minutes, the remaining swarm vessels were disabled or destroyed. The battle was over. The Viridian cluster was saved, and the galaxy had witnessed something it would never forget. Over the next 3 weeks, human fleets appeared in system after system where the swarm was attacking. Every battle ended the same way. The swarm could not adapt fast enough to human innovation. Their ships were destroyed, their advance was stopped, and worlds that had been hours from death were saved. But humanity did not just win battles. They shared something more important. Dr. Sam Richardson, one of humanity's top scientists, worked with Council researchers to decode the swarm's central intelligence. They found the source code, the programming that drove the machines, and they found a way to shut it down permanently. The final confrontation happened at the edge of the galaxy where the swarm had first entered. Admiral Carter led a massive fleet of both human and Council ships. They found the swarm's main processing center, a massive station that coordinated all swarm activity. Captain Ryan Webb led the assault team that boarded the station. With him were soldiers from a dozen different species, all working together. They fought through automated defenses, reached the core, and uploaded the shutdown code that Dr. Richardson had created. Across the galaxy, every swarm ship stopped moving. Their weapons powered down. Their intelligence went dormant. The threat was over. Billions of lives had been saved. And humanity had led the way. The Galactic Council called for a special session. Every species that could attend was there. The chamber was packed. Council leader Jarn stood at the center, with President Kate Sullivan seated in a place of honor. The crystal being's voice rang out clearly. The Galactic Council recognizes President Sullivan of Earth. The floor is yours. End quote. Kate stood and walked to the center of the chamber. She looked around at the assembled species, seeing fear in some faces, gratitude in others, and calculation in a few. She had prepared a speech, but standing there, she decided to speak from the heart. 5 years ago, you voted to exile humanity. You feared us. You thought we were too aggressive, too unpredictable, too dangerous. And you were not entirely wrong. Humanity is all of those things. We are passionate, competitive, and we refuse to accept that anything is impossible. But you forgot something important. We are also loyal, compassionate, and protective of those who cannot protect themselves. She paused, letting her words sink in. During our exile, humanity could have chosen revenge. We could have used our freedom to develop weapons that would let us conquer you all. We certainly had the capability. But that is not who we are. Instead, we chose to build, to grow, to become better. And when you needed help, we came. Not because you deserved it, but because it was the right thing to do. Some council members looked ashamed. Others nodded agreement. Kate continued. But I need to make something absolutely clear. Humanity will not rejoin this council. We will not submit to your authority or your restrictions. We have learned that we are stronger when we are free to reach our full potential. So we offer you a new relationship. We will be your allies, your friends, and when needed, your protectors. But we will remain independent. As it, independent. We will be your products. We will be your protectors. We accept your territories, your right to expand, and your autonomy. Council leader Jarn said immediately. The Council recognizes Earth and all human worlds as a sovereign power. Kate nodded. In return, we will share knowledge. We will help defend innocent people from threats. We will trade fairly and honestly. But we will also continue to grow, to explore, and to push boundaries. If that frightens you, I am sorry. Ambassador Krell stood up. His voice was strong despite his shame. President Sullivan, on behalf of my people, and many others, I want to say what should have been said years ago. We were wrong. We judged you out of fear instead of trying to understand you. Humanity has shown more honor and courage in the past 3 weeks than many of us have shown in centuries. Thank you. I would see Hadam being. Other ambassadors stood and echoed his words. Not all of them, but enough. The galaxy was learning that humanity was not the threat they feared. Humanity was the friend they needed. In the weeks that followed, human colony ships began moving to the 20 prepared systems. Millions of people left Earth to start new lives on new worlds. The expansion that had been planned in secret was now happening openly. Within a year, humanity would have settlements across a significant portion of the galaxy. Trade agreements were signed. Defense pacts were negotiated. Human technology began flowing to council worlds. But carefully, with humans maintaining control over the most advanced systems, the galaxy would benefit from human innovation, but humanity would not be vulnerable to betrayal again. Ambassador Krell met with Jake Morrison one final time before Jake departed for one of the new colony worlds. They stood on an observation deck looking at Earth's orbital rings. I still cannot believe you built all this in 5 years, Krell said quietly. Jake smiled. We did not build it all in 5 years. We planned it for 20 years. We built the foundations for 10 years. The Exile just gave us permission to finish what we started. You freed us from council restrictions. In a way, you gave us the greatest gift possible. I did not mean to. No, but you did anyway. And now humanity is what it was always meant to be. Strong, independent, and free. Jake turned to face Krell. But not alone. We learned during our time in the council that the galaxy is better when we work together. We will never forget that lesson. Krell extended a branch, and Jake shook it in the human fashion. 2 species that had been on opposite sides finding common ground. It was a small moment, but it symbolized the future. Years later, a young girl named Emma Chen stood on a platform on Earth, looking up at the night sky. She could see the orbital rings clearly, and beyond them, the lights of ships moving between the stars. Her grandfather, former Ambassador Jake Morrison, stood beside her. Grandpa, do the aliens still think humans are scary? Jake laughed softly. Some of them do, Emma. But most have learned that there is a difference between scary and strong. We are strong. We are capable. We can do things others cannot. But we use that strength to protect people, not to hurt them. Is that why they asked us to come back? They did not ask us to come back, sweetheart. We came back on our own terms. And that is the important part. We do not need anyone's permission to be who we are. Emma thought about that for a moment. Then, she smiled. I like that we are strong. It means we can help people. Exactly. Jake looked up at the stars. At the future humanity was building. The galaxy tried to exile us because they feared our potential. But they learned something important. You cannot stop humanity by pushing us away. You can only stop us by destroying us. And anyone who tries to destroy us will learn what we are truly capable of. He looked down at his granddaughter and smiled gently. When you treat humanity with respect, when you work with us instead of against us, there is nothing we cannot accomplish together. Emma nodded seriously, already understanding more than her young age would suggest. She was part of the new generation, the one that would grow up in a galaxy where humanity was respected and feared and admired, where human ships protected trade routes, human scientists solved impossible problems, and human diplomats worked to keep peace. The exile had been meant as a punishment. Instead, it became liberation. The galaxy voted to cast humanity out, thinking it would solve a problem. But all they did was set humanity free to become something greater than anyone imagined. And when the galaxy needed them most, humanity chose to return, not as exiles begging for acceptance, but as equals demanding respect. The story of humanity's exile and return would be told for generations across countless worlds. And every time it was told, the lesson was the same. You can exile someone from your council. You can push them away from your civilization. But you cannot exile potential, and you cannot exile greatness. Those things will find a way to emerge, no matter how hard you try to contain them. Humanity had proven that truth beyond any doubt.